I'd like to welcome everyone to the 2022 Greater Hartford Twilight League Hall of Fame. My name's Steve Krajewski. I used to play in the league for the Vernon Orioles. And I tell you what, it's really great seeing all you guys that we competed against each other. It's just great to see you guys. You've waited a long time, but your day has finally arrived. So enjoy it. I'm going to go over briefly the history of the Greater Hartford Twilight League. Now, it goes back to 1929, so I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but in 1929, this league was started. It was the Premier League. It was either you play in the Greater Hartford Twilight League or you play at the Cape Cod League. Many professional players have played in this league, and two unbelievable players, Ted Williams and Babe Ruth, made appearances in the Twilight League. I'd like to recognize a couple of Hall of Famers that we have in the crowd. Carl Vasquez, can you stand up? Where are you? What a hell of a center fielder you were, boy. And then we got Ralph Giansiracusa. Ralph? Ralph and his dad, I think, are one of two combos where both he and his dad are in the Hall of Fame. One of the best players that this league has ever seen is Gene Johnson. We've got to talk about Gene when you talk about the history of the Greater Hartford Twilight League. I'm just going to go over a few of his not stats, but his credentials. Gene signed with the New York Giants, and he played for 7 years. He was part of the league for 57 years. He collected 28 titles. He actually played in a game when he was 75 years old. That's incredible. He is definitely the face of our league, and Gene was named the player of the half century. The league has had some longtime sponsors throughout the years, and I'd like to recognize a few of them. Herb Sport Shop, Herb Shinetop, great guy, great organization. Maule Jewelers, Buzzy Levine. Buzzy made everybody. Buzzy made everyone feel welcome. I talked to his son Mark, and I thought it was just me, but he said no, he did that for everybody. So what a great individual he was. And then the last was the Vernon Orioles manager, Frank McCoy. Frank and his franchise is the longest running that the league has seen. We've had a lot of great franchises in the league this year, over the course of the years. You know, we've had Mike and Tom Abbruzzese, pick a bank. People's Bank, Bank of Boston, and now M&T Bank. A lot of times, not only would you see Tom with his dad, but his mom attended many of the games. And that was a great family tradition that you guys had over there. I'd like to recognize, obviously, the East Hartford Jets have been in the league for an awful long time. Bristol's been in, different, the Cassins, so they've been in for a long time, and also the Newington Capitals. And there's a lot of others, as I mentioned, Herbs and all the other teams. Obviously, with a strong league, you need strong leadership. So I'd like to recognize the officers of the league. We have the president, Bill Holowati, vice president, Andy Baylock, which he couldn't make it this evening, treasurer, Mark Levine, secretary, Wes Ulbrich, and Assistant Secretary Ryan Ruggiero. I'd also like to introduce or recognize some of the more recent past presidents. Tom Malinowski. Save your applause to the end, please. Tom Malinowski, Jane and Mark Foss, Jim Gallagher, Father Campion, which that was difficult when he was president. The players had to watch what they said. Brian. No. And Jack Rose. And there's a few others that the list goes on. The person that I want to introduce next to say a few words, he led Eastern Connecticut State University to 4 national championships. He was Coach of the Year 4 times in his career. He's the all-time winningest Division III coach. He was inducted into the Hall of Fame in the Little East, inducted into the Hall of Fame at Eastern Connecticut, and inducted into the Hall of Fame to the ABCA, which stands for the American Baseball Coaches Association. At this time, I'd like to have President Bill Holowati come up and say a few words, and we appreciate the support from Bill and the executive staff for, a job well done. So Bill, can you come on up and say a few words, please?
Great.
No. That's the other one. Hold on. Let me get this on. There you go. You can hold it.
Great to be here, and long time. This should be here, and I consider that this league started me out in baseball. And I played, with, who was the guy who coached? Huh? Yes. Well, I forgot. And it started my baseball career off, and the dear Lord, I think, wanted me to be in baseball more than basketball, and I was privileged to be around a lot of great ball players, and they certainly made my career and my family better. And to see you guys here to represent the league and the great league we do have, and it's getting better. And I'm proud to see all these old guys and here because they made me, and I learned from them. Gene Johnson and where's my father, the boss. okay, your father. Yeah, and so we tried, I think, another league, and it didn't work out as well, I thought. And this league has a character that has been outstanding. And I loved playing in this league. I played 1 year with what was the league I played? I keep forgetting. Who was it?
Hamilton Standard.
Hamilton Standard, and that was unbelievable experience. But it made me play. Okay, we're Wally Whitholm, and made me a better coach, and to be around the people we had in this league, and it was outstanding, and I appreciated it, and I hope I can just help a little big out of the league, and so I hope I can make the league better, and I'm very proud that we're going to have the All-Star team, and it's going to make our league stronger, and know these guys. And I don't know all you guys, even the older guys have been after me. But I started out my career one day. I made it to UConn, and first day on campus, who did I meet but Andy Balak? And my first day at campus, and from that day on, Andy and I played baseball probably till the end of his career, my career, and it was a bear to have a friendship with Andy and all the guys we have in our league. And that's the nice thing about this league. We have a friendship, and when I have friendship with Steve Krajewski and all the guys here, it's been a privilege for me to be the president, if you call president, of the Hartford Swag League. So thank you for supporting us, and let's keep it better, and let's make it better, and we need everyone's help, and I appreciate your help and one evening. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Coach. For a second there, I thought you were going to start getting into your stats of when you played. Because I remember you telling me that you think it was a record that you had 3 doubles in one game, and that you led the league in doubles and when Alan Putz was playing. So, you know, besides being a average, maybe a little bit above average basketball player at UConn, only kidding. You know, he was a hell of a coach, and I know there's a lot of players that played for him. And, you know, you were a fundamentalist and a motivator. And, you know, we can't ask for a better person to be running our league for us. So thank you, Coach, for everything that you've done for the league. Okay. The next thing that I want to get into, and then before we start introducing the players, is a little bit of the history of the Hall of Fame. Back in '82, we had an individual, Jack Repass. That's above my pay grade, playing around with electronics. But let's get back to Jack Repass. So back in '82, Jack, well, prior to that, he was the sports information director at the University of Hartford. And he was also a baseball historian. He played in the Greater Hartford League, Twilight League, for many years. After his playing days, he ended up putting together, he wanted to recognize and acknowledge former players and contributors. Inductees were hand-selected by Jack, and there's over 200 players, managers, sponsors, administrators, media, and I'm not sure how umpires got umpires were selected to the Hall of Fame. When Jack passed away on November 10th, 2001, the Hall of Fame stopped. Jane and Mark Floss did select a few players over the course of their tenure, and in 2017, Wes Ulbrich also inducted with the league 4 members into the Hall of Fame. Hartford Current sports writer and Greater Hartford Twilight League Hall of Famer Bo Kalinske commented on the passing of Jack. His quote was, "The link to Hartford baseball past is gone now." Well, Bo, I can tell you we're back. So, looking around the room, you know, what a lineup. I would love to put this team on the field with the talent that is been waiting for their turn to get into the Hall of Fame. The Hall of Fame was definitely a team effort. These gentlemen that are at the head table, we put in countless hours at Chris Kehoe's house. Thank you, Chris, for your hospitality. But we narrowed it down to this class of 2022. And I'd like to recognize the committee, starting to my left. Tom Abbruzzese, Bunty Ray, Chris Kehoe, Jack Hurley, Jack Sepatelli, and myself. When you look at all the years of experience and knowledge of the league, and I don't think you can get any better. I'd like to have a special thank you to Jack Hurley for all his work that he did on these programs that you guys are reading. Without his help and all the information on the bios, I mean, it was an incredible job. So thank you, Jack, on the job. Okay, we're going to get into our first Hall of Fame inductee, Brett Burnham. Brett went to Rockville High School. I wish he did. Brett went to Rockville's rival, South Windsor High School. He was selected to the All-State team twice. After he graduated from South Windsor, he went to Auburn and played for Auburn for 2 years. Then he decided that he was going to come back home, and he transferred to the University of Connecticut. At UConn, he was a Big East first teamer both years, his junior and senior year. After he graduated from UConn, he was drafted by the San Diego Padres. Here are some of his stats, and I know they're in a book, but it's just incredible. I questioned him on that, and he said, "Crash, what do you think this is, fake news?" He was a 3-time batting champion, 3-time home run champ. He was a 7-time RBI champ, 4-time stolen base champ, 4-time MVP of the league. He won the Triple Crown in 2010. He was named the Player of the Decade from 2001 to 2011. Those are perhaps the most unbelievable and best stats of any player that ever played in the Twilight League. Brett couldn't make it today. He had a family commitment. He was watching his son, which is a quarterback and a heck of an athlete. They had a playoff game, football game. You usually play on Sundays, but they switched it to a night game. But accepting on Brett's behalf is his uncle, Ralph Giansiracusa. Ralph played in the league for a number of years. He was also drafted by the Atlanta Braves. He's a member, as I mentioned, of the Greater Hartford Twilight League Hall of Fame. And again, he's a combo with his dad of being in the Hall of Fame. So Ralph, you can come on up here and he didn't lead the league in stolen bases, but he was pretty quick.
Thank you. Yeah, my nephew couldn't make it tonight, and a little printout. Thank you to everyone. He's honored and humbled, inducted into the Twilight League, the Hall of Fame. He does wish he could be here tonight. He actually has 4 children, 3 sons and a daughter. His son Jude is the quarterback of his football team that has the playoff game tonight. He's quite a player. I want to thank the committee, Crash, Jack, setting this up. The next line that he talks about, this besides Coach Holowati, who was a real name in our household ever since I was 5 years old, is Gene Johnson. He wanted to thank Gene especially. Jane Foss for believing in me. He wants to thank his teammates, Jeff Johnson, Mike Mount, Doc, and all the others he played with, but he really looked up to Brian Crowley, Lee DeAngelis, for really taking him under his wing. I wanted to thank my mother, which is his grandmother, and my dad, which was a big influence on a lot of our lives. They really supported him through his life. He wanted to thank me as a positive influence and role model. I'm not going to get into it. I think you all know. I don't need to tap myself on the back. He wanted to thank his mom for always believing and shaping his mind and confidence in his Father in heaven. Thank his brother Gary as a role model to him while he was growing up and doing the things that he needed to do. And one of his goals was to play with his brother with Foss Insurance, which was really a memorable moment. It was kind of a memorable moment for myself when I played with my nephew Gary for Moriarty Brothers with Jeff Johnson and Mike with Gene, who actually got up and hit a double in Middletown. I want to thank his wife Christy and for the ride and die for the past 25 years. And he just wants to say again, thank you very much. And congratulations to all the inductees that are here. And as I look around, a lot of these guys that play with here, these guys are some great players. I think everyone in this room, God bless you. A little disappointed Schweighoffer couldn't make it tonight. I probably would have gave him a hard time because I did beat him in the club championship. And so I'm going to razz him a little bit when I see him either tomorrow or the next day. So God bless everybody and congratulations.
Hi, my name's Jack Hurley. I played in the league for 17 years with the Newington Capitals, 1 year with a team called Duplicated Methods. I was a pitcher for UConn for Andy Baylor. And I hope everybody liked everything here today. We'd like to continue this. And we need your help. After 21 years, this was awesome to get this back together. And this man right here, he was spearheaded everything, and it was great to get this back. Thank you, Craig. I always pronounced it Krajewski, but it's Krajewski. Took me a little while to figure that out, but so we just went to Crash. So we're good with that. The Vernon Orioles were always tough. So I'm going to introduce a few of the mostly the Newington Capitals players, so that they were my teammates. We had a wonderful time. We're still, good friends to this day. Dave Sacco was our player coach. He was amazing as all, when everybody comes up, they will talk about him. He just had a way of, keeping your teams together. And I want to talk about the 80s and 90s and the early 2000s. I thought that was some of the best. I think Tom might agree, and Bunty, and Chris, and Jack, that was saying, everybody that's here, that was some of the best baseball that you could, that was played. So my first one, my friend, Scott Cormier, I'm going to start with him. Scott played for Conard High School. He played at UConn Hartford. And the amazing thing with Scott, UConn Hartford only played in the fall. So he did not even have a spring team, and he went from UConn Hartford to play for Coach Andy Baylock at UConn. So he's one of the few people that have ever done that. And then his first year at UConn, he is a second team All New England performer. He was the third baseman, hit 8 home runs, 27 RBIs, and hit 315. On our team, though, when he got to the Hartford Twilight, he played 19 years all on the Newington Capitals. He was the only one who played every year that Dave was the coach. And Scott was amazing. We always call it a slow heartbeat. He never got too excited. In the big games, he was tremendous. Sorry. I hope you can hear me now.
No.
That's all right. But Scott, he won 3 MVP awards. He was 8-time first team All-Star, 4-time second team All-Star. Just amazing. Played mostly third and mostly the outfield. He switched kind of in between both. But he was just so consistent. Never got too excited one way or the other, because some of our guys got a little too fired up one way or the other, and we'll hear about that a little bit later. But I'd like to introduce Scott Cormier to the Greater Hartford Twilight Hall of Fame.
Thank you, Jack. As far as heartbeat goes, playing baseball, it might have been low, but public speaking, this is off the charts. So I want to thank the committee for recognizing me for this and all the hard work you guys have done. Really appreciate that. And there's several other people I want to take a minute to thank, starting with my Legion coach, who, when I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to play baseball, I was going to get a job, he took it upon himself to actually pick me up and bring me to a place and get me a job. And the job that he got me was with the Chotner family. I want to thank them too, and especially Steve Chotner, which many of you know, because he was a great player in the Twilight League and a great mentor to me, and he got me on the Capitals to begin with, so I really appreciate that. I want to thank Coach Andy Baylock for giving me the chance to play baseball at UConn, which is something that I really never thought I'd be able to do. And all the amazing experiences I had there, playing down south and getting to play at Fenway Park once, that was something, again, I never dreamed of doing. I want to make a special thank you to player coach and great friend Dave Sacco. Right in the beginning, he stepped in and saved the Capitals from folding. And he kept a crazy group of guys together for a long time. They were great, a lot of talent, but a lot of craziness. And without him, I would not be here, and I think a lot of us might not be here on the Capitals, because we would have probably gone our separate ways. But the friendships we've had throughout the years was amazing, and really a lot of us, we owe it to Dave, so I want to thank him for that. I want to thank my whole family, the Mulligans, who came to all the games and supported me, as well as my own family that growing up my siblings were always there to have a catch with, or to bring me to a practice, just supported me. I want to thank my parents, John and Clara Cormier. They always supported me and always let me get out of chores and everything like that so I could play baseball, which was nice. And of course, I want to thank my wife and self-proclaimed biggest fan. She always supported me. She always brought the kids to the game and did everything like that. And she, including scheduling our wedding around Twilight League schedule, which was nice. That was a big one. Playing for the Twilight League was one of the greatest things in my life. I really appreciate it. I really loved all the people I played with and met. I loved all the people. It was great with all the competition of all you guys that I played against. Just amazingly talented and great people. So I'm just grateful and thankful for that. So thank you.
I forgot one thing. 24 and a half years ago, Katie introduced me to my wife, Kristen. So that. If Scott was close, that put him over the top. All right. Jeff.
Sounds like maybe you should be up here getting the Hall of Fame, getting inducted into the Hall of Fame. All right, the next person we're going to induct is Jeffrey Johnson. Jeff graduated from Rockville High School in 1984. That year he was named to the All-State baseball team. Jeff was also inducted into the Rockville High School Athletic Hall of Fame. After Rockville High School, he went on to play 4 years at Eastern Connecticut. He was selected 2 years as a first team All New England selection. He set the career record for putouts at Eastern, and he also helped Eastern to a World Series appearance. After Eastern, Jeff signed with the Atlanta Braves organization. After he got done playing with the Braves organization, he started his Twilight League career, to the dismay of many of the teams. He was an awesome hitter. He came back and played for Moarty Brothers, but more importantly, he came back to play for his dad. Jeff helped his team to 12 titles, and he was selected to numerous all-star teams. He won the Gold Glove in 1998. It seemed the older that Jeff got, the better he got. He was an unbelievable competitor, and I have to share this with you. When he was filling out the questionnaire, where it said, please name some accomplishments, he wrote down, no idea. All I wanted to do was win, and that he did. So I'd like to call up Jeff Johnson and congratulate you on becoming the 2022 Hall of Fame.
Community members, thank you very much. I didn't prepare a speech. This is probably the greatest thing as far as me growing up was going to Twilight League games with my dad, playing catch with him before the games. He'd throw me hours of BP before a game. 7 o'clock game, I'd be at the park at 3 o'clock. I'd hit for 2.5 hours before anybody else got there. I'd shag all the balls back up, put them in a bucket. My dad just keeps throwing. He'd throw until he was soaking wet from his shirt. He had to change shirts. My teammates were always top of the line guys. They all had fierce competitiveness. My father tried immensely to create, great teams. And unfortunately, some of the pitchers here tonight did me in. But the other inductees, congratulations as well. It's quite an honor. It's greatly appreciated. And Coach Holowati, I played 4 years for him. We had a few battles, but I wouldn't do it any other way. He was a fierce competitor as well, and I enjoyed every minute of it. Thank you. Thank you.
Tom Abbruzzese is going to introduce Kevin Gieras.
I'm honored to present Kevin Gieras for induction in the Greater Hartford Twilight Baseball League in the Hall of Fame that we are recognizing this evening. Kevin first joined Society for Savings in 1993, helping us win a playoff championship that season. I honestly saw then that Kevin was not only a talented pitcher, but also a young man of exceptional character, who was truly a team player, and furthermore would excel in any career he chose. Kevin went on to become a dominant pitcher in our league, as his stats, and you probably have read them in the booklet, would show, winning numerous awards and citations in our league. What made Kevin unique, however, besides his ability to get opposing batters out, was his commitment both to the New York Police Department as well as to the Greater Hartford Twilight Baseball League. As a member of the New York Police Department, Kevin would drive approximately 100 miles to fulfill his pitching assignment that evening. More often than not, opposing players would come to me with the question, "Is Kevin coming tonight?" More often than not, I would say yes. There was one playoff game, however, when he was caught in a traffic jam in the middle of New York, as you might expect, the middle of Manhattan. "Is he coming?" was the constant refrain heard from across the diamond. And I won't tell you what team that was. Okay. Finally, I had to say no. Well, as expected, and of course, that was unfortunate for our team. Well, as expected, the whooping and hollering from the other side was quite evident, as expected. Only a dominant pitcher would have received such a response. Kevin is also unique for his commitment to the NYPD, rising in the ranks from patrolman to a recently honored citation as an outstanding detective in Manhattan. And also, by the way, Kevin continues to pitch for the NYPD. Now, maybe that's fake news, I'm not sure. I'm proud to reflect on Kevin's accomplishments, baseball-wise and career-wise, speaking on behalf of the selection committee, and I'm sure all of you. We extend congratulations to Kevin Gieras, as you are now a member of the Greater Hartford Twilight Baseball Hall of Fame. Congratulations, Kevin.
Thank you, Tom. That was amazing. First off, I'd just like to congratulate all the other members here tonight that are getting inducted with us. I had the privilege to play with quite a few names on this list, and it's an honor to be inducted in the same class. I'll make this brief. There are a few people I'd like to thank. First, I'd like to thank Steve and all the other members up here in the committee for putting this special event together. I always loved my time with the Hartford Twilight League. I believe my first year was in 1993. Our team name was a bank called Society for Savings. I returned to the team in 1999, and now it was the Bank of Boston. I think a year later, we changed to People's Bank. I'm not sure what was going on in the 90s, but it's kind of safe to say you didn't want to be in the banking business. Throughout all the different names and the changes, one thing remained the same, and that was our coach, Tom Abbruzzese. Tom has dedicated almost 50 years of his life to this league and to help growing this league and making it better. Tom, I would like to thank you for giving me a place that I could call home in the Hartford Twilight League. I would also like to thank my college Hall of Fame baseball coach, Bill Holloway, who's here this evening with his wife, Jan. I also had the pleasure, well, I don't know if I say pleasure, but the opportunity to play for Coach Holloway. Coach would demand a lot from his players on the field, but he would also demand a lot from his players off the field. Many of the things that Coach would teach us would help us prepare us in life after baseball. Work hard, be consistent, and good things will happen. I was able to use many of those teachings when I became a New York City police officer in 1999. So thank you, Coach Holloway, for all that you taught me. To my mom and dad, I remember saying to my wife years ago, I don't think you really appreciate your parents until you become one yourself. That's when you truly understand the sacrifices they make for us. Looking back, I can't remember a game that you weren't there to support me. That always meant the world to me. You both are the biggest reason why I'm up here this evening, and I love you both. The other reason I'm up here today is because of my hero, my role model, and the person I was always chasing after as a kid, my older brother, John Gieras. I had the opportunity to play with John in 1993 when we won a championship for the Hartford Twilight League. Thank you for all the support and love you've given me over the years. Last but not least, I would like to thank my beautiful wife who was unable to attend this evening, along with my two well-behaved, always listening, and never talking back, lovely daughters, Julia and Catherine. I've had the opportunity and the privilege of coaching both of the girls in softball for the past few years. I will always cherish the time we spent on the field together. Softball may or may not be in your future, only time will tell. I just hope you both can find something that brings you as much joy as baseball has done for me. Work hard, be consistent, and good things will happen. I love you both. God bless, and safe home, everyone. Thank you very much.
Our next member of the Hall of Fame is Todd Mercier. Todd graduated from East Windsor High School in 1986, where he was an all-state selection for 2 years. After he graduated from East Windsor, he ended up going to MCC, where he led the nation in hitting, batting average. He got drafted by the Cincinnati Reds. After playing with the Reds, he finished his college career at the University of New Haven, where he led them to back-to-back World Series appearances. Todd Todd started his Greater Hartford Twilight League career in 1987. He started with Herb's Sports Shop, and then he played for the East Hartford Jets. He was an all-star for numerous years. This dude could hit. I mean, I remember playing against you, and you just destroyed our pitching staff along with everybody else in the league. He had an unbelievable year in 1994, where he led the Hartford Twilight League in hitting with the .464 average. Not only that, Todd played in the Tri-County League when he didn't have games in the Greater Hartford Twilight League, and he led that league in hitting also. So, I mean, this guy could hit. I'd like to call up Todd and congratulate him on being the newest member of the 2022 Greater Hartford Twilight League Hall of Fame.
I'd like to start off by just thanking my two coaches with the Twilight League, Hal Benson, the East Hartford Jets, and Bill Wyszynski, who unfortunately is no longer with us, with Herb's Sports Shop. I'd like to thank all my teammates over the years, a couple of whom are in the room tonight, guys like Brian Marshall that I played with down at UNH and for the Jets, and a good friend Dan Bontempo I played with at MCC and for Herb's Sports Shop. I'd like to thank my wife Tracy, who for the first 5 years we were together understood that from mid-May until mid-August, my evenings and occasional Sunday afternoons were booked. I'm very happy to have my son Owen here to see this tonight. We had Owen long after I retired, and he never had the opportunity to see me play. I think recently he's starting to realize that his dad did some really cool things when he was young. I'd like to thank Jack Hurley and Steve Krajewski for all the time and effort put into making this evening happen. And lastly, I'd like to thank the committee. When you consider the long history of the league, it is no small thing to be given the title of Greater Hartford Twilight League Hall of Famer. Though it may not be Cooperstown, in my mind it's pretty close. Thank you all.
Our next inductee is Roberto Giansiracusa. Unfortunately, Roberto could not make it today, but just want to go over a couple things. First, Roberto, he started with the Newington Capitals, and I don't know if everybody remembers. Remember in the Current, they used to write down the batting averages for the Twilight League? So in 1984, Roberto hit .544, okay? I still think that is one of the highest batting averages in the history of the Greater Hartford Twilight League. He didn't have a bad year because at the University of New Haven that year, he was a Division II All-American. He hit .415. So put them together, he hit about 1,000. So that's not too bad. Then Roberto played 3 years with the Newington Capitals and player coach Dave Sacco and our crew. That was a little prior to me, but Scott played with him and Jim Snediker played with him and Mike Schweighoffer, and they had some very good teams. He moved on to Mallows. And when he played on Mallows, I just want to recognize the Mallows crew here. Mark Levine, Jay Hickey, Charlie Hickey, Carl Vasquez. What a team that was. In 1986, they won the regular season title and the playoff title. It was, and you'll see, and as Wes has in the website, the picture is still there of the 1986 Mallows team. That was, you know, they had Doug Elliott catching, they had Tom Capalbo at first, they had Tim Haviland at second, We weren't sure if it was Tom Banner or Ed McMillan at short, but what a team. And in the outfield, I always thought when I was in high school, my friend and I would always say, oh, Newington had this great outfield. They had the Capitals did, Roberto Giansiracusa, Tom Musey, and Rich Holfelder. But then in 1986, I thought that was one of the best outfields of all time. Dave Darling is a great friend of mine. He was a center fielder at UConn. Carl Vasquez, Greater Hartford Twilight League Hall of Famer. Another could have played center field too. And then Roberto. You couldn't get any balls in the outfield. They would catch everything. And as Jay would say, what a team that has, and you did a wonderful job coaching that team. Charlie, thank you for doing a tremendous job at Central. We haven't recognized Charlie Hickey, Central's coach. It's really nice to see you here, Charlie. Charlie and I were at UConn together, but you've done a wonderful job at Central. Back to Roberto. I want to give you a little history on him. He went to South Catholic, played for Tom DeFiore, Class M All-State outfielder, graduated in 1981. They won the state championship. And why you see a lot of South Catholic and Newington guys together, we played Legion together. So we play Legion, and then we play on the Newington Capitals. So that was a good little mix for us. But Roberto, he did tremendous. He was always so positive. He goes down to the University of New Haven, plays for Porky Vieira, letters all 4 years, gets signed by the Phillies, plays in the Carolina League for the Peninsula Pilots, and bats .260, does tremendous. He played 4 years for Maule, and Jim will attest to this. What a game we had in, I don't know on the Maule's crew who was here, but in 1987, that was one of the best championship games in the history of the Twilight League. Jim pitched an amazing 4-3 game. I don't want to bring it up, but Roberto hit 2 home runs that day, and we did sneak in. It was our first championship, the Capitals, so it was a big thing for us. But Maule's was a great bunch of guys that you had, and you did extremely well. Roberto ended up coming back and playing the last 3 years back with the Capitals. I believe he was a 4-time first-team all Greater Hartford Twilight League performer, and then 1 year he was a second team. But just a class act. He always was very positive. As Scott was talking about, he was one of the guys on the Capitals that kept things under control, kept us on the straight and narrow, because sometimes we're a little off, and Roberto would pull us back in there. But he couldn't make it tonight. It's really, I'm hoping that maybe Brett and Roberto and Mike Schweighoffer can come next year, because I'd like to have them all be recognized. They're all tremendous players. And Wes, I want to thank you for a lot of help with the booklet. I took a little liberty and took some of the things from the Greater Hartford Twilight League website that are in there. And there's a couple mistakes, so I'll fix those. So we'll have those corrected. But next up, we are going to have Bunty Ray is going to introduce Jason Maule. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody. It's a great honor to be sitting up here and introducing one of our best players to be inducted. Before I have a couple thank yous, a couple congratulations. Also, everyone in here, thank you so much. All the inductees are, as a young player coming up, being able to play and watch how it was done. It was very important. I continue to coach now, and I played a long time. That energy that you brought, that competitiveness, and every one of you that have come up, I have a story. I can't share all those stories because they're not appropriate, but I'm going to tell you, it was just an honor to play with all of you, or play against some of you too. So, Jay Maule, I'm going to tell you right now, the stats are unbelievable. I asked Jay, I said, Jay, what are your stats? He's like, I have no idea. So I'm glad you were able to dig those up. I'm going to skip down. I mean, he had a tremendous career. I'm sure you could read that before. It's in the program. But in the Twilight League, Newington Capitals, 96, 98. Jay helped the Capitals to both win the regular season and playoff titles. Jay was named first team Twilight, 98, batted .417, led the Twilight in stolen bases with 27. Upon return from the minors, Jay continued his career, played for Chris over at East Hartford before we were able to poach him in 2007. And then from there, he helped us win a couple championships. He's a 9-time All-Star, MVP, Triple Crown winner, just a tremendous player. You know, I remember sitting with Gene Johnson when I became a player coach, which is, you know, difficult in itself. And Gene said, "Well, Gene, how do you do it? How do you build these teams?" He goes, "Well, you find a group of core guys that are dedicated, and then you go out and you get your best players. And you get a bunch of guys out there that can fill in." So Adam's the brain behind the operation. So we're sitting in the parking lot one day, as we always did, and we needed some speed. And we said, all right, let's pick up the Maule kid because he scores 4 runs against us every game. So we're like, all right. So we called Jay up, put the full court press on, and said, "Jay, how'd you feel about coming over to Bristol with a bunch of older guys?" And you think, all right, you want to get young guys. You know, the thing that intrigues you about Jay is he can get from first to third like that, from second to home like that. And I said, that matters for the merchants because we never get to second. Not because we didn't try to hit the ball far, because we did, we just couldn't get there. And as we were getting older, Jay just infused himself into the lineup. I know his kids are here, which is probably more important than these stats is, you know, I get to see his kids actually play. And they're pretty good athletes themselves. You're sitting up here watching your father, and one of the things that you have to know about your father, numbers are numbers, but he's an incredible teammate. If you guys, when you grow up, could be anything like him in terms of how he carries himself, how he conducts himself, what he does, I'm his age, and I learn from him every day. It was nice to sit behind him on deck and just listen to him talk about baseball, talk about passion, talk about the things that mean something, and humble, which that wasn't our team. So he was able to go in, and he was able to come in and just do tremendous things. And, you know, it's an honor to introduce someone as good as Jay. Also, before I have him come up here, I too wanted to thank Coach Holowati, president of the league as well, and just giving back. You talk about passion, unbelievable. I did get nervous when Kevin walked up. Still get nervous when I see Kevin walk up. I see Todd and I say, wow, man, next to Bobby Stefanik hitting the ball far. Marshall, same thing. You see Jeff, you just, all these guys that are in here that have done so much for the league. And, you know, Jay, you're a little bit younger, which is good to say, but you know what? Being in the company with all these guys is tremendous. I'm glad I'm glad your family's here to see it as well. And thank you for letting him play, because when you get older, thank his wife for letting him play. When you get older, it's a matter of not whether you're stuck in traffic, is what family party you got to skip out of, or where you can get out of, or if you go get the milk to try to get an appearance, can you really get to the field in time to get your 5 appearances to get into the tournament and things like that. So, you know, we appreciate everything that the wives do for us as well. So, Jay, come up for get you on.
Thank you. I had a speech prepared, but I'm going to kind of scrap it. But they kind of said it all. When I decided to play Twilight and started with the Capitals with Chris Kehoe, Brian Marshall, Scotty Cormier, kind of showed me the ropes. Manager Fico, Kevin Bedoyan. I mean, we had quite the club. When I came back from playing, Chris Kehoe gave me a call, and Mike Lombardo and a bunch of my Central teammates were playing, so I went to play for them. And we battle, but unfortunately we just could never get over the hump, and we get frustrated. And my man Bunk gave me a call one day. He's like, man, Peters wants you. And if Peters wants you, it's time to leave. So we head over to Bristol Merchants, and we made it happen, but it was quite the fun. But anyways, thank you for the induction. I appreciate everybody for choosing me. Like, I look around this room, and I'm like, well, I don't know sometimes if I belong here. I thought Jeff would have a dip in his mouth when he was doing the speech. I don't even recognize him without it, right? You get to first base and it's all over his face. You're like, wow, this is crazy, right? But it's just a competition that, you know, when you played, for as long as I played in the minor leagues, it was stats. Did you get a hit? Is that guy getting a hit? Am I going to have a job tomorrow? And it's stressful. So when I got to go back to Twilight and I was hit at the top of the order, whether I went 0 for 3 or 3 for 3, and knowing the AP was going to have that cooler packed after and we're going to have a place to go, it was just a breath of fresh air, you know, and the lifelong relationships that you build and the friendships, AP and even Brian and Scotty and Kehoe and all Jack for doing all the stuff. Like I said, when they asked me for stats, I just didn't even know. You know, stats kind of threw out the window when he started playing Twilight. It was just, we were playing Foss and we had to get that guy out. Or we were playing, you know, whoever and we had to get that guy out. And pitcher was pitching, like, oh boy, it's going to be a tough game. And I miss it. I do miss it. We were just reminiscing, and I do miss it, but the body doesn't miss it. You know, the next morning you're like, wow, I think I teach for a living. This guy's got to get up for work. I don't know how he does it. My wife's here. She was a big supporter. My kids were a little bit younger. Unfortunately, they couldn't see me play. They still don't believe that I was able to do all that stuff. Maybe they'll listen to me now when I try to teach them how to hit. But I do coach my daughter's softball team and my little man's baseball team. And they are, you know, we'll see what happens with that. But I want to thank everybody for this wonderful night, and I appreciate everything. And this has been awesome. Thanks so much.
I had one little story of Jason. I asked him if I could share it, and he said, yeah, that would be fine. So in 1998, Jason and I were at the Berlin Fair, all right? And they used to have this modeling, John Casablancas. So this young lady comes up to us and goes, have you ever modeled before? So I'm thinking she's talking to me. And I'm like, and she goes, no, I wanted to ask your friend. So congratulations, Jason. I felt terrible that day. I don't know what she was. I thought I was a model too. Next up, we have Brian Marshall. All right, Brian he's a friend of mine, and he was 1985 South Catholic. He was an all-state outfielder, Class M. Played for Tom DeFiore, a great, another great I think he's in the Hall of Fame. I'm not sure. But Tom DeFiore played a lot in the Hartford Twilight, did a great job. And Roberto played for him, and Mike Schweighoffer, and Brian. Brian played 4 years for Porky Vieira down at New Haven, did tremendous. They were 3 times in the NCAA Division II College World Series, and they lost in the finals in 1989. Brian was the MVP of the Northeast Regional that year that was held down at New Haven. After he got back from playing at New Haven, he started with Gene Johnson and Moriarty and played for a year. Then he went to the Imagineers, played 4 years for Bill Nardi and the Imagineers. 3 years for Hal Benson at East Hartford, and they won 2 regular season championships. And then somehow he ended up on the Newington Capitals. So we ended up with his 7 years on the Newington Capitals. Brian was beside Brian Crowley, the premier power hitter in the league. 1 year he hit 15 home runs. Another year he drove in 53 runs, which are unbelievable. He was a 10-time first-team All-Star. That is unbelievable. We looked at his career batting average. His career batting average was .366. Which is tremendous. There was one game we were, when he was on the Imagineers, and I was pitching for the Newington Capitals. The Imagineers were, they weren't tremendous that year, and we had a powerhouse team. So we win the game 12-1, all right? And I pitched pretty good. I pitched 5 innings, gave up 1 run, 2 hits. I'm thinking I'm doing all right. The only problem is the 1 hit I gave up to was to Brian. Brian hit a home run. The thing is still going. I don't know if it landed. It was at Cromwell at Community Field. But my neck still hurts from watching that, and that's all we talked about was the home run. We did win the game 12-1, but all we talked about was Brian's home run. Congratulations, Brian. Greater Hartford Twilight Baseball Hall of Fame.
I wanted to thank Jack for helping me add to my home run title throughout my Twilight career. I'm not sure that's the only one I hit against you, by the way. So thank you again. But in all seriousness, I want to thank the Twilight League and Crash for putting this event together, and congratulate all the other inductees. All the hits, all the stats that I'm hearing about, they seem like they're a long time ago. But back in the 80s, early 90s, the Twilight League was an extremely competitive league. And there's many current college players and ex-college and pro players throughout the league. And if you lived in the area in the summertime, the only real option to play was to play in the Twilight League, or if you're good enough to be able to go up, luckily go up in the Cape. So, you know, being in college and playing in the Twilight League is a great place to prepare for your upcoming college season. And then, you know, a lot of us just wanted to continue to play afterwards because we enjoyed it so much. I was lucky enough to be able to play for some great programs and coaches, starting with Tom DiFiore at South Catholic, and then lucky enough to play for Porky Gieras at the University of New Haven, where I was able to play in, it was 4 College World Series. Jack got 3, just to let you know. I also played for some great Twilight League franchises, and most specifically, I really enjoyed my time playing for Hal Benson, Chris Keogh, who's now taken over that franchise, with the East Hartford Jets, and Dave Sacco of the Newington Capitals. Playing and competing in the Twilight League was a great experience of mine. I thoroughly enjoyed every minute of it, and as Jack said earlier, above and beyond, we made lifelong friends and acquaintances being associated with the Twilight League. All the amazing times I had in baseball, and all the people I met, and all the great things that happened are way too many to mention, but they were certainly great and awesome times. It's also great to see that the Twilight League is thriving. I do see that there's a lot of big social media presence. I guess it's Instagram and Facebook, and you cover the playoffs pretty well. And you know, in thinking about that, I'm sure glad that social media wasn't around when we played, because we probably would have been trending every night. It would have been really, really entertaining. You know, so I am glad about that. In closing, I want to thank my friends and family for coming out to the ceremony. Specifically, I want to thank my wife Lisa for holding down the fort when the kids were young, and I was running out every day at 4 o'clock, go take a little batting practice and get ready for a game. Also want to thank my parents for always supporting me growing up and playing, and specifically my father for always encouraging me, and you know, a lot of times he would talk me off the ledge there when things weren't going so well. So he was my resident psychiatrist. Watching baseball, being part of baseball, I enjoy every minute of it. And I'm still lucky enough to be able to see my son Jack, who is a junior and competes at Stonehill College. And last but not least, I want to thank you know, the umpires in the league. You know, I knew a lot of those guys through high school. We would see them. We'd see them at Twilight League games, and then I started running into them at some of my son's high school baseball games. So I know they always appreciated me kind of educating them on the strike zone throughout the at-bat. So it was a great time, and thank you very much for putting this together. Thank you.
Okay, we have these 2 pitchers for the Newington Capitals are kind of together. And Mike Schweighoffer and Jim Snediker. Mike couldn't make it tonight. I want to go over a little stuff with Mike. He's just an unbelievable teammate. Mike played against South Catholic, Tom DiFiore. He was an all-state shortstop in 1980. He went to, played 4 years, led 4 years at Trinity College. Played for Roby Schultz, I'm sorry. And what was amazing about Mike was he was the team captain, team MVP, and in 1984, he was pitching for the Newington Capitals and got signed for the next year by Coach Holloway, would know Dick Teague, a wonderful scout. Mike got signed for the next year after playing with the Capitals, and then he had a wonderful minor league career. Just unbelievable because what was unbelievable about Mike, if you remember, younger guys, I'm a big Cubs fan. I love Greg Maddux. That's who I thought Mike Schweighoffer pitched like. He was unbelievable, tough competitor. And what happened was the Dodgers, and this was his first year, he goes to Florida State League. He goes 10-11 with a 3.11 ERA and makes the All-Star team, which was, tremendous. And then the next year, he goes all the way up to AAA and goes 7-3 with the Albuquerque Dukes. So he plays 4 years in the minor leagues and he did tremendous. He started with the Newington. We'll go back to the Hartford Twilight League. He played 82 to 84 with the Newington Capitals. Dave Sacco. Just want to mention a few of our teammates that I haven't really mentioned tonight. Dave Rose, Pete Bartolewski, Mike Mangiafico, Tom Musey, obviously Scott Cormier, Jim Snediker, Joe Rich, Kevin Bedoin, Gino Caro. Just, it's too many, we had some wonderful teams. But Mike came back. He had an unbelievable 1989 year. I believe it was 6-0. I think he was the pitcher of the year that year, had a 1.78 ERA, if I can remember. And then he was, I believe he was a 4-time first-team All-Star, and 1 time he was a second-team All-Star. But Mike, unfortunately, had to go to Florida. He is still not happy that he lost to Ralph in the Farmington Country Club Senior Championship, but he is quite a golfer, too. But Mike, hopefully next year we can recognize him. But Mike had a wonderful career, just tough. He was just tough. It would always be like, who's pitching tonight? Is it Schwei or Schned? And then the other teams would be like, that's a pretty good. That's kind of like, I always thought it was kind of like Randy Johnson and Curt Schilling. Not Curt Schilling's politics, but Curt Schilling and Randy Johnson, what the pitchers they were. Next, I will introduce Jim Snediker. Another tremendous pitcher started at Simsbury High School, graduated in 1978, and then he played 5 years for Jigger-Watusick at Central. And what I would say about Jim was that he had the most, perseverance, I guess you would say. He never stopped. Because in 1982, after 5 years at Central, he just told me the story, he went down to Florida and got signed by the Cincinnati Reds out of a tryout camp. That was amazing, just to go down there and just to do that. And he had the talent. He did very well for the first year he played. He was 6-2, and then he played 2 other years. He was injured 1 year and played 2 other years with the Winter Haven Red Sox. So Jim had a wonderful minor league career as well. So when Jim comes back, that changed our Newington Capitals. We were a good team, but he put us over the top. We were talking about that with Roberto. In that 1987 year, Jim was unbelievable, unhittable. He was the MVP pitcher 3 times. I think he again had 5 first-team All-Stars. But that 1987 team and that final game was unbelievable. It was a tremendous game. Jim pitched lights out. He was unbelievable. He also threw a no-hitter in 1989 against Cat Sports Shop. He was just, he was, what he would do, he'd just be just similar to Mike. They were so tough. They never wanted to come out of a game. They pitched. Jim threw harder than Mike. Jim had an unbelievable slider, but he would constantly lead the league in strikeouts. But just did a tremendous job. And then we talked a little about Dave Sacco, and Dave would, if you were getting knocked around a little, Jim would tell me the story. Dave would come out to the mound after you give up a 3-run homer and go, "How you doing, big fella?" So he'd get a little laugh out of it and bring you back down, and he'd really help you with that. But I'd like to introduce 2022 Greater Hartford Twilight League Hall of Famer Jim Snediker.
Wow. Randy Johnson and Curt Schilling, which one was I, Bill?
I don't know about your politics, so we'll keep that quiet. You were Randy Johnson.
All right, appreciate that. Wow, I cannot believe it's been 30 to 40 years. It's hard to believe I still feel like it was yesterday. Baseball's a kid's game. I still act like a kid. Just ask my wife. She constantly tells me to grow up. So my wife here, I want to start by thanking her, Terry Ann, and 2 of my 4 children, not 4 sons, 4 children, Ben and Sean, and I have 2 more. And my playing careers were well before I met Terry Ann and had the kids, but they certainly heard about it over the years, time and time again, story after story, each year getting more grandiose and probably further from the truth. But I really want to thank, as you heard tonight, the work that Jack and Steve have done, putting this committee back together and inducting these fine athletes into the Hall of Fame. Tremendous job, and I appreciate it a lot. I also like to thank my mom and dad and my 7 siblings who supported me through the years, the good times and the bad, from Little League to Babe Ruth to high school and on to American Legion and college and a little bit in the Cape Cod League and then professionally and of course the Twilight League. But it was my dad who gave me the inspiration to continue on. I was a late bloomer. I didn't make my high school team till my junior year, and even that year I was cut. And my dad pulls me aside through my tears and anger and says, why don't you try to stick with the team? Why don't you be the equipment manager and maybe throw some batting practice? So he convinced me to do that, and as luck would have it, a couple varsity pitchers went down and I made the team, and well, that was the beginning of my baseball career. I was at the precipice of deciding whether I wanted to continue or not. So I want to thank my dad especially for that. And lastly, I'd like to thank my Capitals teammates. You've heard it time and time again tonight. My teammates and player coach Dave Sacco. We had a special team, and the Twilight League, to me, was a special time in my life. I had played so much and focused on the stats that baseball was not fun for me anymore. And I got into this league and playing with the Caps. I developed friendships and camaraderie throughout the team and the entire league, and still maintain those friendships today. Just a wonderful league, well run. Wouldn't trade it for anything. Yep, 63 years old, gonna need these. So I played 25 years at all levels, but by far the Twilight League was the most memorable and the most influential in my life. I found the love for the game like we had when we were Little Leaguers. And that was our teammates, it was the guys in the league, but I have to say, Dave Sacco, the player coach for the Newington Capitals, he changed my outlook on baseball. If you know Dave, he tended to be a little sarcastic at times. He had fun with the umpires. Are there any umpires here tonight? Oh my God, for those of you old enough to remember Earl Weaver and his antics with umpires, Dave rivaled him. He would get out on the field and get face to face, the spit would be flying, and I thought he was going to have a heart attack at times. And he comes back to the dugout and he has a smirk on his face and cracks some kind of joke. I don't know if I can remember the jokes, but you know, and he'd say it loud enough so the umpires could hear it. Like, my blind dog can make better calls than that, and he's been dead for 5 years. So, and he said it loud enough just so Lippy Eliaphaz and some of the others could hear it. But Dave was a special guy, and we had a special team. Dave was, and still is, very sarcastic, very quick wit, had tremendous baseball knowledge, and he knew how to make a tense moment light, which was really important to me because I tended to get a little fired up at times. And I remember Jack mentioned 1987. We had a great team. I think we finished first, maybe second or third. One game behind in the regular season. I had a pretty good year that year, mainly because I had a great team behind me. They hit like hell, and they caught a lot of line drives and played great defense. but Dave gives me the nod for the first playoff game. And we're playing for, Tom, you might remember this, Society for Savings in Newington. And I think, as I recall, I pitched a game and we won 1-0 in the regular season. And so I'm feeling pretty confident going to the mound. And I think Society was thinking, we're gonna get him today. Well, by the second or third inning, we were down 5 or 6 runs, and I was getting shellacked. And Dave comes out to the mound, and as Jack mentioned, he says, "Sneddy, how you feeling, big fella? They seem to be hitting them where you ain't." And I said to Dave, "What game are you watching? They are ripping me all over the field." And he says, "Jim, don't worry, we're going to come back from this. Just tell me how you feel. Do you want to continue?" And for the first time in my very long pitching career, I said, I had the confidence and the maturity and the team focus to say to my coach, "I got nothing tonight. I have dead arm. I want to win this game too. You're not going to win with me on the field." And he took me out. And I think it was Schweighoffer he brought in. Todd Mercier he brought in. Pitched a gem the rest of the way. We scored a couple runs in the bottom of that inning, a couple more runs. We win the game. And then we marched through the playoffs, and we're playing Maule at Mountain Eagle Field, and I was lucky enough to be on the mound for the last out of that game. Although I made it interesting, as Jack mentioned, with a guy named Roberto Giansiracusa who owned me, hitting a solo shot in the first and a 2-run home run with 2 outs in the last inning. Fortunately, the next guy popped out, and we won our first of many championships. And I'll never forget that as long as I live. It was a great team. All right, what do I have, about 45 more minutes? You said 50 minutes today, right? All right, I got one more story. This is about this man here. I don't even know if you remember this, Steve. I think it was the '87 season, and Steve steps up to the plate. It was probably the 4th or 5th inning. It was the second time around, and he digs in. He's crowding the plate, and I know, like some other pitchers here, we don't like it when hitters crowd the plate because that's our plate. So I said to myself, all right, I'm going to bring one high and tight and back him off my plate. So I let it go, and down goes Crash. Dirt's flying. He gets up. He doesn't even look at it. Brushes the dirt off, gets in the box, digs in. Now he's right on top of the plate, right on the black. And I'm thinking, this guy has some cojones. So I rear back, let one go. This one really takes off inside. Steve goes down, helmet's flying, bat's flying, dirt all over his uniform. At this point, we got both benches up on the dugout. This could go bad real soon. I think Lopez was coaching. And he's thinking, now here we go. Steve brushes himself off, gets back in, of course, right in the same spot on the black. But I think it was a 0-0 game or a 1-0 game. I can't afford to walk. So I said, all right, let's see what we got. Crash. I mean, who goes by the nickname Crash? So I'm going to give you my best right down the heart. And I let one go with some real giddy up on it. He hits a line drive. I don't think it was more than 6 feet off the ground. Hits the left center field fence. What is that, 380? It still has a dent in it today if you go out to the Newington High School field. Tommy throws it in from the outfield, flips it to Mange. Mange comes and he said, don't worry about it, Sned, we got him. I look at Crash at second base. There's a smirk on his face. He tips his hat. I tip my hat, and I get back on the mound. So I learned something that day. This guy is a real professional and has real class. That could have gone really badly, and it would have been my fault. And believe me, if you're a pitcher, and you've been in that situation, with both benches clear and you're in the middle, it's not a good situation. So you saved my butt that day. I also learned that pitching inside works on some players, and some players it just pisses off. Thank you very much to the committee for honoring me tonight. It was a great evening, and I hope we keep this going. Thank you.
Not sure if I remember that story that way. I know there was some other pitchers on the team that we did have some brawls with because of their inside pitching. But anyways, but it was always great playing against Newington and all the teams in the league. At this time, I'd like to have Wes Albrecht come up and present Tom Abbruzzese with his Hall of Fame plaque.
So I don't know if anyone knows this, but Crash is in the Hall of Fame as well in 1995. So thanks so much for this night, Crash. Done a good job, excellent job with committee, and congratulations. It's a hard feat to pull off. Any event, if you've thrown an event before, first time, it's always a disaster. This has gone great, so thank you. I'm Weston Albrecht. I'm the secretary of the Twilight League, and I'm here to talk about Tom. Let me say some things about the league, which I'm sure Tom would agree with. Thanks so much for being here and supporting and celebrating the league, which I love so dearly, and so does Tom. We have a great league. It's still college kids and ex-college players, some high school players, and old guys like me who walked on and got a call from Tom one day and said, come on and play Twilight League. I had no idea what it was. It was about 2007, and we won the league title that year. And John Skinner was the pitcher one day, and this guy wasn't supposed to go out and pitch. His wife didn't want to go pitch that day. He ends up throwing a no-hitter, and he's on the front page of the Hartford Courant, and I was playing shortstop at the time, and we didn't see John Skinner much after that. But a lot of great memories on Tom's team. And it really, in our opinion, we think this is how players get better. We play with different age groups, we play with different talent levels, and it's just not all the same ages. And I think that says something about the Twi. We have guys that are 16. We have someone like Duck, Dan Livingston on my team last couple of years, and he's 45 and throws like 100 pitches a game. And I just think that there's something about the older and younger guys playing together that makes the younger guys better on the field and off the field. I've seen it myself, so I always tell kids, if you know any young kids that are thinking of playing this summer, check out the Twilight League. So the Hall of Fame has a manager division, and the only manager going in this evening is Tom Abbruzzese. He spent more than 45 years in charge of what has become known as the Bankers franchise. Thomas Abbruzzese, or as we know him, Tom, is one of the longest contributors in league history and the most tenured manager ever in our league. His years of service put him up there with Gene Johnson and Frank McCoy Sr. Tom started Society for Savings in the Twilight League with his father, Mike, as general manager in 1976. And this was around the same time that he had a JC Current team. I'm sure he'll tell you more about this. But Tom was working for the City of Hartford Park and Rec Department at the time. And he put out the basis for guys going to Cole Park. And this is how he started his team. He did a community service by starting a team, and he's still here doing it. He's still at the helm of the Bankers franchise, which is now the beloved M&T Bank. Everyone loves M&T these days. He's a great guy. He's from Wethersfield. He's been a vice principal of many, many schools. Is that right, Tom? All right, we won't mention that. Still a Wethersfield resident. Still as vigorous as he ever was, and as gung-ho about GHTBL as when I met him about 15 years ago. And he's a great Catholic man and a great competitor. So congratulations on your induction into the Managers Division, GHTBL Hall of Fame.
Thanks, Wes, for your kind words. I appreciate that. And one thing about Wes, he always hit a home run at the University of Hartford. I'm not sure about the other fields, but at the University of Hartford, he'd be hitting a home run. However, we don't play there any longer. A heartfelt thank you to the Hall of Fame committee, and congratulations to all of tonight's inductees. I can certainly testify to the exceptional and outstanding performance of each of the players recognized this very night, and look forward to the induction of many other worthy recipients in future years, several of whom may be here this evening. And under Steve's leadership, I'm confident this will happen. On a fall evening in 1975, both me and my dad, Mike, were invited by Jack Rose, then president of the Greater Hartford Twilight Baseball League, to his office in Hartford. He was an insurance salesperson, to meet with a group intent on selecting a new team for the league to replace an outgoing one. The selection group was comprised of, besides the president, Jack Rose, player manager Gene Johnson, Jim Gallagher, league secretary, and a few others, including the Reverend Thomas Campion. We presented our information, including a list of incoming players, sponsor identification, Society for Savings, there go the bankers again, playing site if it were to be added to the existing fields, and we did not have one, and specific background in managing in any other league. I shouldn't say we didn't have another playing site, it would have been Colt Park. But at the time, Colt Park was not prominent for various reasons, historic reasons. I explained that we came out of the J.C. Current League, beginning in 1971, when youngsters came to me as a playground supervisor in the Frog Hollow section of Hartford, asking me to start a baseball team in the 13 to 15 age group. I said, great. Report to Polk Park South on Saturday morning. Many kids came, word spread quickly. Believe it or not, I hit some fungo balls to the outfield, and one youngster got hit off the head, okay? So I ran out there, and he said, I'm all right, don't worry. But at that time, you know, concussions were not prevalent in everyone's mind. We advanced 2 years later to participate at the senior division level, winning several championships. But eager to begin a new chapter in 1976 in the GHTBL. While our performance as a team improved at the end of 1976, it was not until 1977 and 1978 that our team made the grade, so to speak. We added players David Gale from the Phillies organization, Mark Reamer from Eastern Connecticut Baseball, and Tom Thibodeau, yes, today's professional NBA coach. Those early years, especially by 1979, were great, as that year we would celebrate our initial championship. The decades wore on with both high and low points, as you may expect. Regardless, I am most grateful for the many awesome players we assembled over the many years. Their talent, sportsmanship, and generally rookie status upon entering the league has inspired me the most. Kevin Gieras, for example, one of tonight's inductees, as I mentioned previously, from Eastern Connecticut Baseball, first played for me along with his brother John in 1993, and typifies the exceptional talent and character that is so essential to success, not only on the diamond, but in life itself. As you may know, and I mentioned this before, Kevin has been duly recognized as an honored detective in Manhattan. I'm proud to be associated with such exceptional players like Kevin and several others who are present here this evening, who are, or have been, and are currently part of my team, namely Steve Canada, Eric Malinowski, who just had another child, by the way, the other evening, and Anthony Radamonte. You probably don't know him, but he has played in the league for at least 7 years. And John Gieras, Kevin's brother, as well. And Walt Nakonechny. Of course, we would not have won 1993 without Walt's heroics as MVP that year. As manager, my personal philosophy was honed primarily by family and educational experiences, especially during my 4 years at Fairfield University, under the influence of the Jesuits who preached service to others. Yes, service to others even in a baseball sense, like scheduling games outside of the league as we often did, taking bus excursions to Hyannis to play at the Cape, or to Cooperstown to tour the Hall of Fame prior to playing on an adjacent field. Additional trips to Yankee Stadium, Fenway Park, and other locations were easy to do in those years, hard to do now. Notwithstanding, there are two words that many reflect on as the two most important words you could ever say in any language. These words are thank you, thank you, thank you to the league officials, all league players, umpires, parents, and friends of the league for this opportunity over these many years to guide and be guided. Thank you from the bottom of my heart.
All right, that pretty much concludes our ceremony, but before we break for tonight, I want to really acknowledge the work that this committee has done. When we first met, you know, we knew that there were going to be mistakes made, people left off, and we want your feedback. You can go on the league website, or you can email me or call any one of the committee members, because we want to know. So again, a very heartfelt thank you to the committee of Tom Abbruzzese, Bunty Ray, Chris Kehoe, Jack Sepatelli, and Jack Hurley. And again, this was long overdue. The players that have got inducted today, as I mentioned before, are probably some of the best that played in the league. I mean, I was just looking at it and trying to make a lineup from 1 to 7 with the hitters. I mean, never mind the pitching staff of Snediker and Schweighoffer and Gieras. Did I miss somebody? Pitcher? No? Okay. You guys still give me nightmares facing you guys. But anyways, God bless. Drive carefully on the way home. And we hope to see you again next year. We're not sure. We're going to have a post evaluation with the committee. And hopefully Chris will provide the beverages this time around. And again, thank you for everybody for coming out, and again, congratulations to the 2022 Greater Hartford Twilight League Hall of Famers.